in example 3. And so now we can actually look at some examples where we are solving for the compound interest. So example 4 has 4 parts to it. We're going to see how the accumulated amount that you earn changes over time, depending on whether interest is compounded annually, semi-annually, and then we're going to look at quarterly and monthly. So in example 4 it says, determine the accumulated amount if $2,300 is invested for 4 years at 6% per year compounded annually, semi-annually, and then we have quarterly and monthly as well that we're going to be looking at. Okay, so let's take a look at the information that's given. The accumulated amount of $2,300 is invested. So what this tells me is that $2,300 is the principal amount invested, so that represents P. And 6% tells me what the interest rate is, and I'm going to indicate that using the letter R. That's not the interest rate per compounding period. That's the interest rate per year. So R represents the interest rate per year. I represents the interest rate per compounding period. And 4 years tells me how long we are investing for. So I'll let that represent T. Okay? It does not represent N because N represents a number of compounding periods. Okay, so let's start by looking at the formula. So we have A equals P times 1 plus I to the exponent N. And because we're looking at an annual interest rate, the principal amount we know is $2,300. I is going to equal 0.06. And because your interest is compounded on an annual basis, if I take this and I divide it by 1, I still get the same interest rate. So the interest rate actually doesn't change because I'm looking at an annual interest rate and it's 6% per year. Okay, the number of compounding periods. Okay, because this is annual, I'm only earning interest once a year, and I'm earning interest once a year for 4 years. So the number of compounding periods I'll have is 4. Okay, let's plug in the information we know. A equals, principal amount is $2,300. I is equal to 0.06, so 1 plus 0.06 gives me 1.06. And the number of compounding periods is 4. And so that makes sense because this is 6% interest per year. And at the end of each year for 4 years, I have 4 compounding periods. So now we can use our calculator to do the calculations here. And I get an accumulated amount of $2,903.70. So remember, we're looking at money, so we need to round it to the nearest hundredth, so 2 decimal places. Okay, so accumulated amount is approximately $2,903.70. Okay, let's look at what happens if you're earning interest semi-annually. And so things are going to change a little bit here. I'll start by writing the formula. And so if I'm looking at the interest rate, normally the interest rate is 0.06. Because interest is being earned semi-annually, then that means the interest rate is going to be broken down twice a year. And so the interest rate per compounding period is actually 0.03. So that means that every half a year, I'm going to earn 3% in interest. Okay, the number of compounding periods. Now, there's going to be more compounding periods because they're happening more frequently. So interest is being compounded twice a year, and it's being accumulated over 4 years, so 4 times the 2 that we have from semi-annual interest. So that gives me a total of 8 compounding periods, and that makes sense because I'm earning interest at the end of the first 6 months and the last 6 months. First 6 months, last 6 months, first 6 months, last 6 months, first 6 months, last 6 months. In total, that gives me 8 compounding periods. And so if I plug in the information I know again, I get 2,300 times 1 plus 0.03 gives me 1.03 to the exponent 8. Now you'll notice a few things compared to the previous question. First of all, the growth ratio is smaller because you're earning less interest over time. And you'll also notice that there are 8 growth periods or 8 compounding periods because it's happening more frequently. And so what I get here is, if I calculate this, $2,913.57. Now this is kind of weird. I invested for the same amount of time, and I invested at the same interest rate, I invested the same amount of money, but you'll notice that when you invest for a semi-annual compounding period, you actually end up having more money at the end of 4 years. Now, why did that happen? Well, the reason why that happened is because you earn interest every 6 months. That's what semi-annual means. So if you earn interest every 6 months, the next 6 months, you're actually earning interest on the principal amount that you invested plus the interest that you earned at the end of the 6 months. Now, every 6 months, because you're earning interest much more frequently, and so that means you're earning more interest on interest more frequently. And so you end up having more money over time.